Now, because video game bosses are designed to test players, they need to provide a monumental challenge. But no matter how tough these enemies are, you should emerge triumphant after you've memorized their patterns. However, things get a lot trickier when you have to face two foes simultaneously. Although dealing with an extra baddie doesn't sound like a big deal, dual bosses, well, they're usually the hardest part of any game. So let's take a look at them today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 hardest dual boss fights in gaming history. Number 10. JUNI and JULI, Street Fighter Alpha 3. Now, before we begin this one, can we just express how good Street Fighter Alpha 3 is? Yes, thank you. And this game concludes with the player going mano a mano with M. Bison. No big surprises there, but before fighting the maniacal dictator, certain combatants must fight Bison's clones, JUNI and JULI. Although these henchwomen are literally head swaps of Cammy, they're not to be underestimated. As soon as your opponents are on both sides of you, you'll be left completely vulnerable. Because you can't block from both directions simultaneously, it's really hard to evade attacks. If you land a solid combo on one enemy, it can be interrupted at any point if her partner lands a single blow on you. However, the most annoying thing about this battle isn't actually the boss itself, but the controls. Because if you want to block an attack, you have to press back on the D-pad. But if JUNI and JULI are on both sides of you, the controls might register back as forward, preventing you from blocking entirely. It also makes it tricky to perform pretty much any move at all. After all, how can you fire off a Hadouken if the controls register down forward punch as down back punch? Because of this, the best way to defeat these clones are to flail maniacally rather than relying on any strategy or timing, and that doth not a good fighting experience make. Number 9. Mr. and Miss Y, Streets of Rage 4. After Axel, Blaze, and a kid on a skateboard defeated the nefarious Mr. X, Wood Oak City was finally at peace. But in Streets of Rage 4, Axel discovers X's children, Mr. and Miss Y, have inherited their father's fortune, allowing them to forge their own criminal empire. In the final stages, your party will face Mr. Y, who's armed with a machine gun, a bazooka, and an endless supply of explosives. Once you defeat him, you'll move on to the last level where Miss Y challenges you. Although she's extremely fast and her rapier attacks are devastating, you shouldn't have too much trouble with her. But sadly, this pair aren't done with just yet, because after Miss Y is beaten, you'll face the twins again simultaneously. Even though it's tough, you should feel pretty confident in your abilities, knowing that you've bested these two already, right? But just when it looks like you have this brawl in the bag, one of the twins suddenly hops into a giant mecha spider to basically flip over the table. And because of the robot's massive size and sweeping attacks, you'll want to eliminate this machine ASAP. But if you kill the twin piloting the mecha, their sibling then takes over, forcing you to continue battling this robotic monstrosity. Number 8. El Gigante ×2, Resident Evil 4. Due to his monstrous size, astounding strength, and surprising speed, El Gigante is one of Resident Evil 4's most feared enemies. Not only do you have to fight this ogre in narrow arenas, he can break through walls and smash open shelter houses, making it nearly impossible to get away from him. Gigante also absorbs damage like a bloody sponge, so tackling this malformed troll is never easy, even if you're armed to the teeth. And because Gigante is a nightmare to fight, players obviously had a heart attack the first time that they entered the Furnace Arena, where they're confronted with not one, but two of these tyrannical beasts. Fortunately, you don't have to fight both of them. If you pull the lever while a Gigante is in the center, he'll fall into the lava below, meaning that you only have to fight one of these monsters. But if you defeat both Gigantes the old-fashioned way, you'll be rewarded with twice as much money, allowing you to purchase tons of weapon upgrades, which is heavily advised if you're playing on the highest difficulty. Number 7. VULTURE and ELECTRO, Spider-Man. Every single boss in Marvel's Spider-Man is superbly innovative. Unfortunately, many of them don't provide that much of a challenge, but the difficulty curve definitely cranks up a notch once you face VULTURE and ELECTRO. Although the supervillain's attacks aren't particularly devastating, there's a great many reasons why this bout tests your mettle. Unlike every other boss up until this point, these supervillains can fly, meaning that Spidey has to constantly thwip around to get close to them. They move at incredible speed as well and are constantly on the move, meaning that they can reach your position in less than a second, regardless of how far away they are. Furthermore, the battle arena is so gigantic that it can be difficult to keep track of them. Although the VULTURE and ELECTRO take turns facing you at first, they eventually tag team, making the second half of this confrontation twice as hard. If you haven't perfected your web swing techniques by this point, well, this boss battle is going to be an absolute slog. Number 6. GALEEM and DHARKON, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. At the end of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's Adventure Mode, you'll face the Lord of Light GALEEM and the embodiment of Chaos DHARKON at the same time. By the time that you reach these dual deities, you'll have engaged in hundreds of battles, boosted your skill tree to the max, unlocked dozens of characters, and obtained hundreds of spirits, which you can then equip to embolden your abilities. So you should feel pretty overpowered when you step foot in the final arena. But within seconds, GALEEM and DHARKON will remind you why they are the true rulers of their own universes. And why are they so hard? Well, you know how difficult it is to fight a boss with screen-filling attacks? Well, now imagine facing two bosses with screen-filling attacks at once. Because these godlings' moves are all-encompassing, you have to spend more time dodging than actually fighting. If you thought that you could kill one god quickly to focus on the other, that just won't work here. If you don't defeat GALEEM and DHARKON at the same time, you can't unlock the game's true ending. You should applaud yourself if you do actually manage to defeat GALEEM and DHARKON in single combat. However, only a true Smash player can say that they successfully vanquished both concurrently. Number 5. Theseus and the Minotaur, Hades. Now in Hades, our good lad Zag must navigate through the netherworld so that he can escape to the surface and reunite with his mother Persephone. And as the Big Z is about to leave the Elysium section, he's confronted by Theseus and the Minotaur. And although the sluggish man-bull telegraphs his attacks, you can't risk being hit once since his assaults are absolutely devastating. Despite the fact that you can see his moves coming a mile away, it's still actually tough to avoid since Theseus will be on your ass from beginning to end. And because Theseus has always got his shield up, half of his body is permanently guarded, allowing the Athenian king to absorb your greatest strikes. So it's crucial to take out the Minotaur first, since Theseus' attacks become less predictable once he's at mid-health. Sadly though, you likely haven't seen the end of this duo once you've beat them, and that's because you'll probably have such little health after this brawl, you're sure to meet your doom in the next arena, and when you die, you'll be sent right back to the start, meaning that you'll have to fight Theseus and the Minotaur over and over again. Number 4. GODSKINS, Elden Ring. Because Elden Ring is regarded as Hidetaka Miyazaki's crown jewel, it's easy to see why it's been lauded with every gaming award imaginable. But since this is a Soulsborne game that we're talking about, it's no surprise that it's really, really freaking hard. Although there are many bosses who will ensure that you become well acquainted with the game over screen, two that stand out are the Godskins. By utilizing his powerful magic, Godskin Noble can decimate your health bar with ease. With his unparalleled speed and lethal rapier, Godskin Apostle can also end you in seconds. As daunting as it is to challenge the Godskins separately, facing them together is a whole other ordeal. Since conventional attacks aren't particularly effective against this couple, you'll have to use your spirit summons to stand a chance. You'll also need an unrealistic level of precision and timing to avoid the ghostly pair pinning you down with their combos. Because you can't risk being exposed for too long, you can only deal a tiny amount of damage to the duo at any time. The worst moment during this fight though is surely the first time that you kill one of the Godskins. With one less target to worry about, you'll probably assume the battle will be twice as easy. Unfortunately though, the deceased Godskin will resurrect itself within moments unless you slay its partner in quick succession. Number 3. The Mantis Lords, Hollow Knight. After arriving in the Mantis village's throne room, the knight's journey will be interrupted by the 3 Mantis Lords. After the gate seals you in, the first lord leaps from her throne and immediately engages you in combat. Each regent attacks by charging at the knight with their lance, hurling their blade across the room like a boomerang or trying to impale you from above. Because the first lord faces you alone, you naturally assume that each of the trio will battle you one by one. By the time that you've eliminated the first boss, you should actually feel pretty confident now that you've memorized the boss's patterns. Only when the remaining 2 lords leap off their thrones in unison does the player realize the last phase is a 2-on-1 battle. Although the remaining 2 lords have less health than their predecessor, this section is 10 times harder. The duo can move so fast you don't even get a single second of rest. Even if you found the first lord a walk in the park, you can easily get killed within seconds if you're not careful in the second half of this battle. Number 2. HRIST and Mist, God of War Ragnarok. At the end of the summoning section of God of War Ragnarok, Odin unleashes 2 Valkyrie, HRIST and Mist, to stop Kratos in his quest. Unlike most boss encounters, the sisters telegraph their attacks with audio cues, not visual ones. When HRIST yells sister, Mist launches herself at you, and just before charging at Kratos, HRIST will shout yield. If you're not paying attention or don't hear these cues, you won't have time to prepare for these vicious assaults. Once their health bars have been depleted, the Valkyrie will jump into their second phase, with Mist leading the charge this time around. Not only is Mist's spin move a nuisance, the bosses can grab your boy during the phase, forcing you to spend more time protecting your son than actually fighting. And when their health bar hits 0 again, Odin's chosen warriors will initiate the final phase. Not only do they have all the same strategies as before, but HRIST and Mist now chuck colossal boulders at you, which are extremely difficult to avoid. So long as you stay on your guard, keep your enemies in your sight, and seize every opportunity to strike, you should emerge victorious. But rest assured, these Valkyrie won't make things easy. And number 1, Ornstein Smough, Dark Souls. Now, being the most infamous duel bosses ever, no one could have topped this list, save for Dark Souls' Dragon Slayer Ornstein and Executioner Smough. This battle is so iconic, it even has its own Wikipedia page. With Ornstein's swift flanking and Smough's brute force, the dreaded twosome strategies perfectly complement one another, making this encounter an utter nightmare. Although you can hide behind the pillars at first, Smough will obliterate them with his sledgehammer, forcing you to face the duo head-on. But that's not all. When Ornstein or Smough perishes, the other absorbs their power, imbuing them with greater reach, strength, and resistance. Oh, and each boss also gets all of their health back. And when this pair kill you, which will definitely happen a lot, you can't have a rematch straight away. To restart this match, you'll have to work your way around Anor Londo all over again, which is needlessly time-consuming. As nerve-shreddingly frustrating as Ornstein and Smough are, there is actually one plus to fighting them, and that is that they are guaranteed to give you the most unforgettable fight of your life. So cheers for that. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 10 hardest duel boss fights in gaming history. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Instagram at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there, and you can check out all of my Warhammer miniature paintings that I've been doing. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hope you're treating yourself well, my friend. At the time of recording, it is the beginning of the year, and we're about to face the boss fight that is 2023, but I want you to know that you are not alone. You have somebody in your corner, and that is me, my friend. I wish you the best, and I want you to remember to treat yourself kindly because you bloody well deserve it, alright? Now go out there and smash it. I believe in ya. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.